without any kind of whistleblower affidavit, ABC News and the way they conducted that debate is a scandal.
But this guy's saying there was an agreement that Trump would be subjected to fact checking during the debate and Kamala Harris would not. Totally out of line if that is true. If there is one word of that is true, that they agreed with her team they would be fact checking Trump and or agreed she wouldn't be facing comparable scrutiny, these guys are toast. Toast. What do you make of this bombshell affidavit?
All right, I have a few thoughts on this affidavit. The first is that it would explain, I suppose, the wild bias that we saw from those ABC news moderators and what we saw unfold, though I also assume just their general lack of professionalism and democratic bias could have also produced what we saw.
Totally.
I have to say, the dissemination of this affidavit through Twitter puzzles me a little bit, coming as it does from a news insider, where it's percolated on various Twitter accounts, and it's been hard for me to understand what exactly the provenance of this is and how seriously to take it. So to the whistleblower, if you're out there, there are news outlets that would like to speak with you and assess your credibility. Contact us, E. Johnson at freebeacon.com at the Washington Free Beacon. Because it's very difficult for me to assess the credibility of the document without knowing who's behind it, what their role in putting together the debate was, how they came to know that ABC was cutting these alleged deals. That being said, if what this whistleblower says is true, it's of course a big scandal and would explain a lot of what we saw. And I did go back and read the New York Times story on the deal that Tony West cut when he was at the Justice Department. And he's not just Kamala Harris's brother-in-law. He's a senior advisor to her campaign, having supplanted her sister, Maya, who played that role in her 2019 campaign to disastrous effect. But West is playing a major role in this campaign and handpicked Eric Holder to do the vetting of Tim Walz, because those two served at the Justice Department together in the Obama administration. And I was very amused in the New York Times story. It says that he was handing out cash payments to minorities who didn't even allege any bias had taken place. He was finding people and basically saying, here's $50,000. Much to the outrage of career government lawyers who said this is totally inappropriate. That being said, it would seem weird to me that someone would ask a debate question about Tony West.
But it wouldn't seem weird like that her team would say he's off limits.
It just seems sort of that part seems far-fetched to me. The bit about her prosecutorial record and about fact-checking Trump but not her, that seems much more realistic.
But I mean, Biden's mental fitness for her to say, like, I believe she would not want to answer questions about that.
I totally agree. Yeah. Without any kind of whistleblower affidavit, ABC News and the way they conducted that debate is a scandal.
Agreed, Eliana. But if any of this affidavit is true, ABC News is finished.
Agree.
That's why it's a big deal. That's why, I mean, you've got Bill Ackman out there demanding that Bob Iger, I mean, Bill Ackman is nothing to shake a stick at. He's a very prominent American citizen, businessman, and he's demanding that Bob Iger respond to this affidavit right now. And there are many others all over the internet demanding a response. Just deny it. Go on the record and say, this is bullshit. None of this is true. You know, come forward. The whistleblower should come forward with his, I think it's a he, name and face and make these allegations on the record, to your point, so we can assess credibility. We can figure out whatever bias he has. He says he's not a Donald Trump supporter. He's not even going to vote for Donald Trump in this election. The thing that's the most persuasive about it to me, Emily, on the other side of the roster, like suggesting that this could indeed be real, is that it's dated September 9th. He says that it was sent certified mail to himself and Speaker Johnson on that day. And so this is before the debate ever happened. And we've got a little time, so I'm going to read you some of it, okay? Because people may want to hear this. He says, he's been duly sworn. You do sign an affidavit under penalties of perjury when he's committed a crime, if this is untrue, and if in fact it's a real affidavit. He says, this is my name, though it's been blocked out. I've worked for ABC News, ABC, and then lowercase news, which would be interesting, for over 10 years in various technical and administrative positions. Now that right there is interesting. Technical and administrative positions is not a reporter. It could be somebody who is in tech around the journalists who might be present as certain discussions are had. I mean, the journalists often kind of forget about the tech people around them. They have enough to think about. They don't really think about the supportive tech staff. And they certainly wouldn't be hiding conversations from these guys who you generally trust implicitly. But this guy goes on to say that bias is running rampant inside ABC News to the consternation of many of the employees. So maybe some of the tech guys or administrative people started to get upset. Because most interestingly, this guy's claiming he has tapes of the conversations he's alleging in this thing. Okay, so I go on. Technical and administrative positions, he says he's held. Since the acquisition of ABC News in 1996, which would have been before his tenure there, I have observed significant transformation in the nature of the news reporting here. The changes suggest a shift from unbiased reporting to a model influenced by external factors. For the record, I do not endorse Donald Trump in his capacity as a candidate for president. The intent of this affidavit is to address concerns regarding perceived biases within the news reporting by my employer at this debate that will be hosted tomorrow, September 10th. Skipping over some things, but he says it's common knowledge that debate moderators as well as chief executive officers of my employer are well known not to support Donald Trump, which led to several employees speaking up in regards to how fair this debate would be. We were given assurances the debate would be fair and no one would be given an unfair advantage. It is my belief that contemporary news organizations, including ABC News, no longer adhere to impartiality. He goes on to say the specific instances of perceived bias are as follows. This is what he's claiming he knows prior to the debate. The Harris campaign received particular accommodations, including but not limited to providing of a podium significantly smaller than that used by Donald Trump. Well, I think we all saw that. That definitely happened. I don't know that that's inappropriate. She's just 5'2". And assurances regarding split screen television views that would favorably impact Kamala Harris's appearance relative to Trump. That's interesting. It was agreed that Donald Trump would be subjected to fact-checking during the debate, while Kamala Harris would not face comparable scrutiny. Now that's totally out of line, if that is true. If there is one word of that is true, that they agreed with her team they would be fact-checking Trump and or agreed she wouldn't be facing comparable scrutiny, these guys are toast. Toast. The debate moderator, Lindsay Davis, is out there already saying we plan to fact-check Trump. We saw the criticism against CNN for not fact-checking Trump. And that's why we had all these fact-checkers across ABC running down his claims he'd made at interviews or in rallies. Now, that would be a normal thing to do as a debate moderator, but you would do it for both sides. I don't know whether they did it for Kamala Harris. I certainly saw that they never once fact-checked her. But this guy's saying there was an agreement that Trump would be subjected to fact-checking during the debate, and Kamala Harris would not.